One. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Fantastic Friday. We all know what that means. We have to listen to Michael bloviate about the wonderful Warriors kicking the Celtics' butt last night. And quite frankly, the entire series. You get that with season tickets?
I got it after the 2017 championship.
That's awesome. I love it.
That's the ring, baby.
I love it. So congratulations to the Warriors. Well deserved. And the Celtics are going to need to do a little bit of refiguring how to take care of the ball. But anyway,
they like to turn it over.
Sure. Well, that's why not so well taken care of.
Yeah. Exactly.
They'd be fantastic waiters because they're constantly serving it up. So that being said, wanted to talk today about to HELOC or not to HELOC.
Oh, wow. Very common question.
We get a lot of that question. And the challenging thing for Mike and for me in talking through that is it really is scenario dependent. There's a lot of scenarios where it might make sense or not make sense. And so I just wanted us to kind of go back and forth, kind of build the scenarios out for ourselves. Like you can make the scenario whatever you want it to make, and that can be for or against it. So when I say to HELOC or not to HELOC, we do that, get the question all the time. Yeah. What are your thoughts on to HELOC or not to HELOC?
So I actually, first and foremost, I had a HELOC through probably 8 years of my investing career and used it, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, but I also have to realize I'm coaching thousands of people now, and my general answer, again, not knowing any details yet, is I retreat from the question. I'm like, you're telling me that the only option you have is to put more debt or potentially more debt on your family home where your husband, your wife, your kids sleep. And as someone who's been doing this 22 years, I know how that can end, right? With more debt, then one of you lose your job, and then pretty soon the house is, I've seen foreclosures. I've seen people have the sheriff law. I've seen all of this. So naturally speaking, for lots of people, maybe even most people, I think HELOC is an easy answer to bad money management. Like the only capital you can, you're 46 years old and the only capital you have is your house that you've owned for 10 years. Maybe you should try something else. Maybe you should look at your needs and wants and cut back your expenses and do a side. Maybe there are other ways. So that's just my natural, because I've seen a lot of people get hurt. And let's be very clear. The big thing about a HELOC, it's not the HELOC itself. Right. Getting a HELOC, having the 100K sitting there, not using it. Okay. However, I've seen so many people get a HELOC and they're like, oh, my car, or, oh, my kid needs this, or, oh, I got to help my mom out, or, oh, it's like, well, just use the HELOC. It's there. Just use the HELOC. It's there. I'm like, pretty soon 50% of it's gone and all you've done is spend money. You haven't bought an investment. So you got to remember, my apprehension is I don't think that most people are good with money, and thus they do dumb things if they get a HELOC, and thus they put the house at risk. So my natural inclination is no, which really pisses people off. And then if I step back and go, well, I used a HELOC 8 times, they're like, you idiot, moron, talking out both sides of your mouth. Yeah. Well, here's the difference. I had a HELOC, let's call it 100 grand. And my rule for my HELOC was I would only use it on great deals, not good. And I had to pay it back in 12 months or less. That was my HELOC. And we never used it for anything other than real estate investments. And again, 12 months or less was the key. I happen to have a career in sales and be an executive where I had RSUs or options, depending on when we did this, where I could see future money coming in. It was very lumpy.
Yeah.
So if a deal came across my plate that, I could do if I had my Q3 money, for example, I would do the deal now with the HELOC, and then I would take my Q3 money and pay off the HELOC. The HELOC never, in hindsight, I don't think ever carried debt longer than 10 months. So if you are that rigorous, if you are that focused, if you can pay a HELOC off to get a great deal in under a year, by all means, go for it. But I got to tell you, I haven't run across many people that are that disciplined as I am. So that's kind of how I start.
Yeah. So one of the things that I look at is, and what you talked to very briefly there was something I call need creep. Their needs start to creep a little bit. Well, we really could use we really might need to get
I deserve
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That doesn't float very well with me.
I hate that.
Yeah, me too. But I think, when we get that question, a lot of times it's people trying to leverage an existing asset to get an additional asset. If that is your plan, you have me on step one. Step two, though, is that what is your exit strategy? How do you get out of that HELOC? And the thing that you now need to consider that the economy has changed is what is your exit strategy if it gets shut off? So one of the things that I catch a lot of flack for is having 7 figures sitting there in the bank, waiting, getting just eaten away by inflation. So at the end of the day, if you believe that I'm an idiot, then you also believe the same of Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon, because they are doing exactly the same thing with much larger sums. Where we agree is that, yes, inflation is eating it away, but it's under the idea that I might lose 8% buying power with inflation, but I will likely be buying an asset that is 20 or 30% off of its retail cost. Maybe I get really lucky and I buy a business for owner financing for, like Greg Dickerson, this thing, right? And that's where cash isn't trash. You have to have cash to make that deal, to make that really move. We'll talk about net worth in another video today, but I look at HELOCs, and my experience was I had one in 06. I had one in 06. I used that to buy another property. I bought that other property, although I was trying to grow too fast. Guess what? They shut me off. I went to 100% DTI, debt to income, on that loan. I had no longer available capital there. I then was stuck with, now the meter's ticking and now you have to pay every single month on this thing. And when it was all said and done, that property with its original costs, its maintenance costs, and then paying back the debt on that HELOC, and now with no more ability to do anything more to that property to raise rents additionally, it was a very skinny amount on a monthly basis. It wasn't an alligator, but it was pretty darn close. And it was put in a bad spot. If I needed to replace a water heater, it was $1,600. That was a real problem.
Yeah. One of the things I see about HELOCs that you brought up that most people miss, they let's just say they're the 10 or 20% that do it the right way. They buy the asset and then they calculate their yield and they tell me they got a 12 or a 13 or whatever it is %. And then I look at their spreadsheet and I'm like, where's the HELOC debt?
Exactly.
Where did that line item go? Oh, I don't have to do that at my house. Bullshit. That is debt occurred against that asset. You're faking your numbers.
That's right.
Right. And then you add in the HELOC debt because you have that until it's paid back.
That's right.
It's a 2% deal, or heaven forbid, freaking alligator. I mean, come on, folks. Stop doing bad math.
Yeah.
If you use a HELOC on an asset, count the debt payment.
Yep. You have to count the debt payment. You also have to account for the fact that when you're going into bad times, that rate's going up. That rate's going up. My money, my debt on that money, I think was, I want to say the original rate was 4%. And I think it went to 8 or 8.5.
Very likely. Yeah.
Yeah. It went up a lot. I don't remember the exact numbers because it was 16 years ago. Yeah. That's definitely something that created stress for me. Because then when I went from 8 paying to 3 paying to 1 paying, guess who was always paying?
Yeah. And again, the other thing is these people that are talking about using HELOCs that you're an idiot. I mean, they haven't experienced, again, I've experienced markets where banks stop lending. And again, banks will never officially say they stop lending. They just will make the box so tight you can't fit in it.
Right.
And it's cute to say, I'm going to get a HELOC, but they can cancel that. And they don't even have to tell you.
No.
They can cancel it, send you a letter in the mail that you get 10 days later, and then you go try to close and the money's not available. And oh, by the way, if this recession gets bad and people start losing their job, guess what? The first thing they're going to do, they will cancel HELOCs before they reduce credit card limits.
They will.
Folks, you're not paying attention.
Nope.
Lending and real estate cycles are different.
Yes.
Banks get scared first.
Yep.
Pay attention.
The other thing to keep in mind too on a HELOC is that when they give you a HELOC for $100,000, the bank has to have that in reserves, which means now that
they can't lend it out elsewhere. It's a liability
elsewhere, and now it's a liability, and it's non-performing. Now it's $100,000 not performing. So what's the fastest way to reduce risk? Shut them off. Now, everybody said that Wells Fargo was going to go belly up last year and they were having a huge problem.
I remember that.
Right? And it was because they needed to take all the money that they set aside for reserves for the HELOCs and put it back into doing mortgages. That's why they did that. Yeah. It's because you have to have the reserves to service that. Now, to Mike's point and to exactly what I experienced, that's where the money disappears.
First, it goes, it's clean. You want to change your ratios immediately. You're getting audited. Because again, things that the Fed will do is they will go do these bank audits, and they're going to happen in the next 90 to 100 days.
Heck yeah. Oh yeah.
And they're going to go, ooh, you're under reserved. Well, great. I'll just go cancel this 15 million in equity lines and bingo bango, ratios are good. That's a freaking 7-second thought. It's done. It's the first thing. And to Mike's point about non-notification, here's how I found out. 3 contractors called me and said, I can't cash the check. The funds. It bounced. It bounced. That's the last time. That's the last time that I wrote a bad check, because I was counting on the fund, right? They didn't tell me at all. But what the nice thing was is subsequently, so I did have to pay a bunch of money in fees, but subsequently they were also very nice that I did receive a letter 4 days later in the mail. Exactly. They have my phone number. They had my email address, but they decided that they wanted to send this thing snail mail because it was so important. That's how I found out. It's amazing. They're not going to pick up the phone and go, oh, Mr. Hawkins. Yeah, they don't want to have that conversation. Yeah, we're going to shut down your line of credit. You're like, what? No, it didn't. No, yeah, no. Here's, don't you worry. We sent you a letter regarding the matter. Oh, thank you so much. So for those of you guys that are out there that are considering a HELOC, please, please, please make sure you listen to this video 3-4 times, because all the information that you need is in there. And there's all these things that happen in a downturn economy that we haven't seen for 10 years, that even in a great economy, Wells Fargo still shut down all those HELOCs. Yeah. Wait until people start seeing the negative ramifications of debt and how some of those things are going sideways and some of the default rates on some of those things. It's going to drastically hasten the situation. And banks are a bunch of followers. One of them's not going to be like, yeah, we're just going to keep HELOCs open. Nope, they're all sheep. One starts closing them, the rest of them are going to start to close HELOCs. And certainly with real estate going down or potentially going down based on rates, and that being the only collateral for such, you can basically bank on the fact that within 18 to 24 months or 12 to 24 months, HELOCs are going to be a thing of the past and much harder to get and at a much higher rate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any closing thoughts on this, Mike? Yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me, would I rather have 500 grand cash or $1 million in a HELOC? I would take the cash every day. Because again, even with the HELOC, somebody like, well, Zuber, you can just go write a check and have $1 million. Well, then I'm paying $1 million in debt. I mean, what? Right. I mean, I don't understand. And deals are great, but they're not plentiful yet. Right. Here's the problem. A lot of you are getting HELOCs now for deals that you and I think are coming January, February, or March. What you don't realize is those HELOCs will be gone before January, February, or March. So I will just let my cash get eaten away by inflation for the next 5 or 6 months. And by the way, folks, go back and watch our videos. I told you 9 months ago, this is what I was doing. Yep. And I said, if I couldn't find a deal in 3 years, I'd pay off the loan. And I still believe all of that. So I'm ready. Yeah, 100%. I am more than happy to trade 9% inflation for a 30% return on a deal. And I'm literally looking at businesses now. Like you should be. I'm looking at businesses. Like I never even thought about, you know what, maybe I should buy a business. You should. But in this market, oh dear Lord, in this market. Yeah, you could put together a whole combination of businesses that are related. You get seller financing. Oh yeah, it's going to be amazing. It could be absolutely ridiculous. So Mike, tell everybody where they can find you, my friend. One rental at a time, YouTube channel, 6 or 7 videos a day. Now my team is putting out little shorts. You get some piece of content from me every 2 hours, 24 hours a day for 7 days a week. Enjoy. Yeah. Make sure you turn your alerts off your phone on at night. Yeah. Because I didn't enjoy being awake. Yeah. Turn them off. Hours. No. I was like, Mike, this is a great topic, but I got to sleep. I need sleep. So we always try and put great content together for you. Check us out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and check us out. Mike's live stream on Saturdays, 8 a.m. Pacific time. My live stream is 8:30 Pacific time on Sundays. His is on Saturdays. His lasts about an hour. Mine goes about 3 hours or until the questions end. We certainly do try, but no chance. Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment. So Mike, thanks so much. We'll see you in topic 2.